Next on Currents News, the count is in. More than 24 people have been arrested for threatening attacks since the mass shootings in Dayton and El Paso. One of the most recent attacks bucking the trend, a 16-year-old girl threatened to shoot up a Catholic school.
With 2 weeks before students go back to school, parents are doing their last-minute shopping to get their children ready. I'm Tim Harfman, and I'll tell you how one uniform store in Queens serves hundreds of schools and tens of thousands of children.
Plus, presidential prospects are getting up close and very personal, not at big rallies, but in voters' homes. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Michelle Powers. Authorities across the country are taking proactive measures tonight to try and prevent mass shootings. In less than 3 weeks, more than 24 people have been taken into custody for making violent threats. Nadia Romero has the details from Washington.
While 2 cities remain in mourning, the FBI is working to stop copycat attacks across the U.S. A hotel cook in Long Beach joins a list of more than 24 people arrested over threats to commit mass shootings.
Suspect had clear plans, intent, and the means to carry out an act of violence that may have resulted in a mass casualty incident.
Democratic candidates hitting a familiar theme on the campaign trail Thursday.
When we finally do pass universal background checks and they're signed into law, when we have red flag laws, when we stop selling weapons of war.
The change doesn't come from Washington. It has to come to Washington from people who are demanding it.
Even in red state Texas, Governor Greg Abbott creating the Texas Safety Commission to discuss root causes of domestic terrorism, among other goals.
In Texas, we believe in one thing. Make it 2 things: action and results.
Walmart announcing a permanent memorial at the shooting scene in El Paso. Last week, the CEO saying he supports common sense gun control policies, but stopping short of pulling guns off the shelves. In Washington, Nadia Romero, Currents News.
One of the latest arrests, a 16-year-old girl in Florida threatening to shoot up a Catholic high school.
The reason why they do this, we don't know, but there is no tolerance for threats like these.
Officer Michelle Sosa, Florida's Altamonte Spring Police, says the girl was targeting St. Mary Magdalene Catholic School, where her younger sister attends the 6th grade. The school's principal alerted cops about dangerous text messages, warning that students would be at risk. The suspect was arrested at home, and the police didn't find any weapons. The teen is charged with threatening to commit a mass shooting. A New Hampshire man is guilty tonight for helping his 19-year-old friend kill himself. Parker Hogan's lawyer argued the dead man, Michael Buskey, wanted the help.
Mikey wanted to commit suicide. He was comfortable with death, with talking about death, and was telling those around him that he wanted to die.
Hogan was found guilty for giving his friend and roommate a stick to pull the trigger of a gun and directing him where to point the weapon. Michael Buskey's mother said she's relieved Hogan has been convicted. Hogan's sentence has yet to be announced. The Catholic Church is firmly opposed to assisted suicide in any form. Yale University is apologizing tonight for a sex abuse scandal involving a former professor. The university in New Haven, Connecticut had employed Eugene Redmond as a psychiatry professor. An undergraduate accused him of sexual misconduct last year. Now, according to an independent report, investigators discovered similar complaints stretching back almost 25 years. The new findings also state that Yale School of Medicine investigated Redmond in 1994 for sexually molesting 2 students. That probe ended in a reprimand. He's denied any wrongdoing. The Vatican is investigating a retired Chilean archbishop for an allegation of sexual abuse. Archbishop Bernardino Piñera is 103 years old, the world's oldest living bishop. The accusation against him is for abuse that was allegedly committed more than 50 years ago, which the archbishop denies. He's the uncle of Chile's President Sebastián Piñera. Piñera has been a critic of the Chilean church's handling of clerical sexual abuse. Now the president saying he finds it hard to believe the allegations against his uncle. A weight is being lifted off the shoulders of thousands of military veterans in the United States. This morning, they woke up to a new executive action that will eliminate every penny of federal student loan debt owed by American veterans who are completely and permanently disabled. Reed Binion has the latest from Washington.
I am taking executive action to ensure that our wounded warriors are not saddled with mountains of student debt.
With the stroke of a pen, President Trump is putting plans into place to eliminate student loan debt for tens of thousands of permanently disabled veterans.
The debt of these disabled veterans will be entirely erased. It'll be gone.
The executive action will wipe out an average of $30,000 of debt owed by more than 20,000 eligible veterans.
That's hundreds of millions of dollars in student debt held by our severely wounded warriors. It's gone forever.
Veterans who are permanently and totally disabled are already eligible to have their student loan debt forgiven, but this executive action makes it automatic.
This is an amazing relief on my family, as well as I know many thousands of veterans as well.
Education Secretary Betsy DeVos applauded the president's plan, saying in a statement, quote, "We will continue to prioritize the needs of our nation's veterans and provide them with the help and support they have earned and deserve."
You fought courageously for our country, and now my administration is fighting courageously for you.
I'm Reed Binion reporting.
Some breaking news tonight out of Cape Canaveral, Florida. The active search for 2 firefighters who disappeared during a fishing trip off the coast has been suspended. The announcement comes on the 7th day of the search. According to the Coast Guard, the chances of finding the men alive has drastically dwindled. Because of the strength of the Gulf Stream, the Coast Guard is no longer able to pinpoint a specific location. If some further clues do appear, they will restart the search and rescue process. The lungs of the world are on fire, and Brazil's president is saying tonight he can't stop the blazes. Satellite images over the Amazon rainforest show the area burning at a record rate. The fires are nearly double from what they were a year ago. The rainforest provides about 20% of the globe's oxygen. Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro says he doesn't have what's needed to douse the flames. Critics blame him for encouraging deforestation. Tonight, there are additional concerns about these fires. The Amazon is the largest rainforest in the world, and it's also the focus of a major event that Pope Francis is planning. The national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White, joins us with more on that development. Christopher, thanks for being with us.
Good to be with you, Michelle.
Let me ask you, these record-breaking fires that are ravaging Brazil come on the eve of a major summit being convened by Pope Francis. Why does he want us to focus on the Amazon region?
Right, so this synod, which will take place pretty much the whole month of October, will, in the Pope's words, shine a spotlight on the Amazon and hopefully, again, to use his language, show that everything is connected. So the concerns are, in a sense, two-pronged. One, it's a pastoral concern. There are millions of people there who he believes aren't getting the pastoral attention they need. And part of that is tied to, caring for the land that they live in. And so he wants the broader international community, Catholics and non-Catholics alike, to recognize what a special and sort of volatile place this is.
Now, who's coming to the synod, and what do they hope to accomplish? Anything with regards that will directly impact the fires in the Amazon?
Yeah, so the Amazon rainforest actually touches upon 9 different countries. So there will be representatives from all of these South American countries present there. The fires will, in a sense, be present there because a huge part of the synod working document in advance of this meeting talks about the deforestation and what that has meant both on an environmental level but also on a human level for the people living there. So it will be one of the themes that's addressed during the month-long gathering.
So one of the themes that's addressed, but the environment is also one of the sturdiest pillars of Pope Francis's papacy. What has motivated him to come behind this?
I think this really goes back to 2007. And in 2007, all the Latin American bishops met in Aparecida in Brazil to really talk about pastoral concerns of that region. And during that gathering, then Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio, the Archbishop of Buenos Aires, who would become Pope Francis, got to know all of the leaders of of the Amazon quite intimately. And he said that that time together really sort of, awoken his consciousness to what was affecting these people there. And I think, taking that experience in 2007 into his election as Pope in 2013, this has sort of always been a present and guiding concern. That is why one of his first acts as Pope was to commission folks within his own team at the Vatican to write an encyclical on the environment. So I think that's what's propelled him forward.
All right, Christopher Waite, national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, Michelle.
Bad news tonight coming in from Northern Ireland. Churches there are under attack at an alarming rate. Crimes against houses of worship are happening every other day. New data going back 3 years is finding the violence is hitting all denominations, with almost 500 incidents reported. Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland have long had troubles between themselves, and despite the nearly 20-year-old Good Friday Agreement, tensions continue. Stay with us for news you won't see anywhere else. Check out this line. The last-minute rush to have kids in their school uniforms will take you to a superstore that's been in the business for years. A special insider's look at presidential politics that's happening in living rooms and backyards. And Bishop DiMarzio is moments away. Tonight, he's looking at a hot topic, the death penalty and the Catholic Church. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Pleated pants and plaid jumpers. We all remember it. Some more fondly than others. Back to school shopping for a Catholic school uniform. There's a mad dash of parents right now just trying to get their kids dressed for the first day of school, and that's a tale as old as time. They're piling into retailers like Flynn O'Hara. The family-owned and operated uniform provider boomed in the 1960s and 70s with the expansion of Catholic schools. Tim Harfman has the story of nearly half a century of business from Queens.
Last-minute shoppers wrapping around Flynn O'Hara Uniform Store in Middle Village, Queens. What are you buying here today?
Uniform.
It's gotten where the customer is waiting to more of a last-second type of shop. This is Christmas during the summer for them.
Anthony Algieri is a district manager who has spent nearly a half-century in the uniform industry, working at Flynn O'Hara for the last decade. The family-owned and operated uniform provider boomed in the 1960s and 70s with the expansion of Catholic schools.
St. Margaret Catholic Academy, $49.69, and Blessed Sacrament, $79.97.
Today, most of their consumers still receive a faith-based education.
At this location, we service approximately 130 schools. I'd probably say 100 of them, 110 are parochial.
But the company adapted over the years to keep these machines turning, now also catering to private and charter schools, and even creating new uniform designs to stick with the fashion of the times.
The girls used to wear a blazer, a vest, blouse, skirt. Now they have a choice of either a skirt or pants.
For instance, more schools are turning to polo shirts and sweaters, giving students more options. This Queens store sells 4,000 to 5,000 items a day, making it the largest of the company's 35 locations nationwide. Behind the scenes, employees are pressing and stitching school logos, keeping up with the demand. Though this store isn't as crowded as it once was, 80% of their customers are from Catholic schools. These embroidery machines run up to 12 hours a day, cranking out hundreds of pieces. This machine right here is stitching a polo shirt for Our Lady of Hope Catholic Academy in Middle Village. And this machine right here, Sacred Heart Catholic Academy in Bayside, Queens. Jessica Laszlo and her mom Christine are picking up their order. A student at St. Francis Prep High School, Jessica says she'll always appreciate wearing a Catholic uniform.
I personally like it because I think it makes it quicker to get up in the morning without having to worry about what you're wearing or how you look, because everyone looks the same.
I want the customers to get what they need, and I want them to be happy that they got it, not that they just have to come here.
Just like Catholic education, these uniforms stand the test of time. In Middle Village, Queens, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Democratic candidates for president are crisscrossing the early voting states tonight, looking for ways to stand out in a crowded field. One tried and true way, showing up in voters' homes. The House Party is a long tradition in presidential primary politicking. Karen Kafa takes us on the campaign trail in Iowa, where politicians are making pitches in living rooms and backyards.
Put one in right there, my man.
Early on a Thursday evening at the home of Ray Blaze, they're putting the finishing touches.
We have 8 more. Okay. That is correct.
On a summer backyard party.
Need to space them out.
Blaze, a longtime Democratic volunteer in Iowa, has already decided to back Steve Bullock in the nation's first caucuses in February. And he also decided to invite the Montana governor to his house.
Hey guys, Steve.
I invited about 120 of my closest friends.
A house party is a staple of early state primary politics, and one that might seem a little wild outside of Iowa and New Hampshire. Presidential candidates making pitches in living rooms and backyards. Dennis Goldford, longtime political science professor at Drake University in Des Moines, says small, intimate events are key to the nation's first presidential decisions.
Here in Iowa, candidates talk to real live voters in various venues, and those voters can put hard questions to them.
In Hampton, Iowa, Julian Castro stops with his family in tow at a cafe on the town's small main strip. Fellow Democratic candidate John Delaney was in this back room the day prior for the same routine. Barely 24 chairs and voters with direct questions on everything from jobs to the state of political discourse.
They'll go to 10 or 15 different candidates' events and evaluate all of those candidates. So I deeply appreciate how seriously the people of Iowa take their role.
Hours later, when Castro takes the stage at the Iowa Democratic Wingding Dinner, it's very different. 20 other candidates are present.
Thank you. Thank you, Iowa.
Well, hello, good neighbors.
Each with 5 minutes to address the large audience.
If you ever want to know how quick 5 minutes is, run for president and come to an event like this.
For candidates not drawing top poll numbers now, there's hope that handshakes, home visits, and backyard beers might give a boost.
Every single candidate has those ups and downs. Iowans are real discerning folks. They'll be the one that shrinks down a larger field.
Iowa voters doing what they've done for more than 4 decades now.
There you go, Mike. All right.
Opening doors for White House hopefuls. In Des Moines, Iowa, Karen Kafa, Currents News.
Lawmakers in several states are pushing new bills to bring back the death penalty in the aftermath of the massacres in El Paso and Dayton. These moves to restore the ultimate punishment fly in the face of strict Catholic teaching that the taking of any life is wrong. Tonight, in his Into the Deep segment, Bishop DiMarzio tackles the hot-button issue of capital punishment with Ed Wilkinson. Ed.
Thank you. Bishop DiMarzio is with us today, and hopefully we're going to get some clarification on the church's teaching on capital punishment and the death penalty. Bishop, recently the Trump administration called for executions of some people who are on death row. U.S. bishops reacted by saying, look, we're against this. We don't want this to happen. Why did the bishops say that?
Well, certainly most recently, Pope Francis has amended the Catholic Catechism, where the teaching of the death penalty was kind of open-ended. If there was no other alternative, it could be used, but now we're saying that it's unacceptable, that there are other alternatives, and that we should not use the death penalty. So again, it's a pro-life stance, that human life is inviolate, and no matter what a person has done, to take their life for that is more retribution than justice. And the problem of rehabilitation is another issue. But life imprisonment for some people is all that you can do. They can't be rehabilitated, whatever the issues are. Mm-hmm. But taking a person's life is really beyond the moral understanding that we have today.
Pope Francis says that there always has to be hope. There's also always has to be some kind of hope for rehabilitation. And like you say, sometimes it's difficult to rehabilitate. Right. How realistic is it to think that prisons are really going to help rehabilitate people?
Well, we have to change our prison system. I mean, for many places, it's not a rehabilitation system. It's an incarceration system, period. So there isn't any learning of skills so that when they're released, they can go get a job and do something positive with their life. So that's important. We have to have a place of rehabilitation. That's what it should be more than anything else.
There seems to have been an evolution of thought on the church's process about the death penalty. There was a time when they would have been in total okay with the death penalty, but John Paul began to change it, and now Pope Francis has really taken it to the next limit, hasn't he?
Exactly. So I mean, there can be an evolution of our thinking on many things. Again, in concert with the moral principles. We don't change the principles, but they're applied differently in different circumstances and times. That's what you're adapting.
Yeah, we have prisons right here in our own diocese. We have a federal prison. We have a city lockup also. How does the church interact with our prison systems? We have chaplains that we make available to
That's
prisoners.
true. Yes, we're having a little problem with the federal system right now. Because most of the prisoners who are Catholic are Hispanic, and we don't have anybody that speaks Spanish, so we have lent one of our priests, made him available, but it's difficult to break into the system. There's a lot of red tape and a lot of physical tests to be done, so it's not that easy to do. But we're trying to make sure that we will be able to serve those people. I myself have been to the federal prison a few times now, or during this time I've been bishop. So we don't want to forget these people, but at the same time, it's not that easy to serve them the way we would like.
Yeah. What's that like when you go to a prison to say Mass? I know you've been there like some major holy days. Do you get a chance to talk to the
when they close the door behind you, you know you're in prison. That's the whole issue.
Yeah.
You're in prison. You're not free. And that's the way the people feel, I think, too.
Do you ever get a chance to interact with some of the fellows?
Well, you can talk to a minimal amount of interaction after the masses and etc. But it's not a great system that we have set up in our country. We have too many people incarcerated. We need to rehabilitate more.
Good, Bishop. Thanks so much. Going back to the news desk.
Thank you, Ed and Bishop DiMarzio. Just this morning, Bishop Frank Dwayne condemned the execution of a Texas inmate. Larry Swearington was convicted of murder. Bishop Dwayne, who's the chief of the USCCB Committee on Human Development, said there's unmistakable proof that the death penalty does not deter crime. Still to come on Currents News, famous Catholics with big ties to basketball. The Hall of Fame legend Bob Cousy is at the White House for a very special reason. And superfan Sister Jean is marking a very special moment in her life. A native New Yorker and basketball legend has added yet another award to his trophy case tonight. Hall of Famer and 13-time All-Star Bob Cousy was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. The Celtics point guard helped to lead the Boston team to 6 championships. The Catholic, who was an All-American at Holy Cross College, is the 4th NBA player to ever receive the Medal of Freedom. And finally tonight, we would like to wish a very happy birthday to a nun who has become a Catholic college's good luck charm.
Happy birthday to you.
Sister Jean Schmidt just celebrated her 100th birthday at Loyola University, Chicago. The basketball-loving nun grabbed national attention when the college's team reached the finals of last year's March Madness. Sister Jean is the team's chaplain and biggest fan. Students, faculty, and even local politicians gathered to sing her a happy birthday. The campus will also celebrate a special birthday mass this Sunday. That is Currents News. I'm Michelle Powers. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.